Once we're all ready and feel. Oh, now we're recording.
All
I
right,
thought it would give me a little dialogue. All right. So should I kick it off?
go for it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Persistence of Vision podcast, the podcast where we talk about books and we persist in our vision of books.
Therefore, the name. Cool.
Therefore, the name.
Persist away.
My name is LB Dio.
And I am Lance Fever Myers. And if you want to read more, see more, be more with us, you can go to our website, which is POV-Publishing.com. There you can see world-class art by fantastic comic strip artists like myself, like my friend Walt Holcomb, and many choices there. Also, you can read selections from really fantastic authors like the one we have with us today, Balla.
Yes.
You can also order my book, which is called Why So Much by Lance Myers. Or LB, you want to talk about your offering?
Yes, we can talk. You can come and purchase my book, The Goddamn Fool, which is a very magnificent novel. And if you haven't read
I can attest to that.
You should be ashamed.
Well, so this is a brand new format for us. We have, so POV-Publishing.com also has all of our past podcasts there.
Yes.
And they're all audio in form until today. The pandemic has brought a lot of huge shifts to our lives, and this is one of them, that our podcast now has video.
Yes. Pandemic has done so many good things, and this is just one of them.
The other thing that's very different about this podcast is that correct me if I'm wrong. I might be wrong about this. I think this is the first time we've had a return guest.
It's the first time we've had a return guest per se. We have had Joe Hoppe and David Moses Fruchter came back to the show, but in the capacity of temporary host.
As guest host, that's right. That's right. But this is the first time we've had a return guest to talk about her own work, for sure.
Yes. And who better than Balla, the novelist from Albuquerque, New Mexico, who has just put out her second published novel?
Third.
A third published novel, beg your
Yes.
pardon. The second to me.
Yes.
An arm and a leg. So, Olive, welcome to the show. We're delighted to have you here.
So,
Thank you, guys.
Arm and a Leg was her first. Jilly was her second.
Oh.
Code Murder. Code Murder is the one you've been reading, LB.
Oh, it is.
Yes. Code Murder.
I'm interested to hear that.
So, Olive, what do you have to say for yourself?
Okay, where do you want me to start? I was born in Roswell, New Mexico, just a few months after the alien landing.
That explains a lot.
That's what my kids have said all my life, yes. However, I like to think that holding something in reserve when I turn 80, then the world better look out.
There you go.
But anyway,
I like it. Well, see, okay, so we've had Olive before. We had her a little over, I would want to say like a year and a half ago, which was shortly after your second novel was published on Wild Rose.
Yes, Wild Rose Press.
Yes,
Wild Rose Press.
And so that second novel was Jilly. Now, was the first? All three have been on Wild Rose Press, correct?
That's correct.
That's right. Okay, so Arm and a Leg was first. Jilly was second. That was released in summer of 2019.
I'm impressed.
Yes. And that's when we had you on, and it was a wonderful talk. And at that time, you mentioned that you were already writing this one.
Yes.
And it was of course it's based on two characters from Jilly.
Yes.
Yes.
That's
okay.
correct.
I'm just going to say a bunch of facts, and you can just say yes.
Yes, and I'm going to interject a fact here, which is that I read An Arm and a Leg. So I think we should probably discuss both of those books.
Let's discuss all three.
We've all read between the three of us, we've read all three, and just because Code Murder is the most recent out doesn't mean that the other novels should be forgotten by any means.
How cool.
And so let's chat about all of them.
Absolutely.
By the way, number 4 is about halfway done, and it's called Murder in Amber. And when it comes out, I'll let you guys know.
Of course.
That was going to be
back.
Yeah. Well, my next question was, so since we talked to you when Jilly came out, this one was underway. Now we're talking about Code Murder, and you've got another. So, so just so the audience knows, of course, there's a lot to talk about here, a lot to unpack. So Jilly had two characters named Dix and Lil.
Yes.
And they are the main characters in this one. So talk to us about that. How did that come about?
Well, actually I had several people who read Jilly tell me, hey, you gotta do something with Dix and Lil. They liked them. In fact, I think they took a little bit of the limelight from Jilly, who was my primary my protagonist in Jilly. But that's exactly what happened. Then I started thinking about it. And actually those two women are amalgamated, I guess I'd call them amalgamations of people I've actually known, including family members. They are really reflective of people I knew growing up. So anyway, it's just been a lot of fun. They also I have to be honest, they are partly the dichotomy I see in myself. I guess every writer includes their stuff, and that's part of my stuff.
Yeah.
So
Dix and Lil were the heroic twosome who came to your main character's aid.
That's right, Jilly.
In Jilly, and now they're back to solve more crimes.
Sort of. It got foisted upon them. They really didn't intend to get involved in this. But if you learned anything from Dix and Lil in Jilly, then you learned that Dix picks up strays. Lil is does not like anything about the world or the people in it. And so they really are, I think, foils for each other. But anyway, so yes, Dix can't help but help, even though Lil is telling her the whole time, stop it, stuff happens, leave it alone.
Yeah. Well, I think I was one of the ones that had mentioned how much maybe not in time to inspire you to write about them, but I certainly, when I was reading Jilly, like most of your readers, I'm sure, I thought Dix and Lil were perfect characters for a spinoff, if you will.
Cool.
So yeah, it's really cool. Now, do you, when people ask you, or do you ever volunteer the idea that this is maybe sort of a sequel? Would you use that word, sequel?
I have not. I have had people mention that to me, the possibility of doing a sequel. The one I'm on now, number 4, Murder in Amber, is not a sequel. But I've had people say you really need to do more with Dix and Lil, and so it's possible that I would do another one.
But you wouldn't
think about it. I've believe it or not, I've actually had someone tell me if you wanted to refer back to Arm and a Leg, Bellamy, my really, really bad guy, in that one, someone said, hey, you need to write a prequel to Arm and a Leg and make Bellamy some way to explain why he turned out to be such a butt nugget, I guess.
Yes, Bellamy is the villain from Arm and a Leg, who is about as sinister as people come.
I think so. I knew somebody like that once.
Oh, wow.
Present
Well, I was
company.
one of my questions was going to be about your relationship to your characters. But before we get into that, I want to back up a little bit and say to anyone out there who's listening or watching our podcast and has never read any of Olive's work, so tell us, would you call this? It's kind of a thriller, right? It's not horror per se, but your genre is very. I mean, all three are very dark books in a sense. Yeah. And there's some definite villainy in your antagonists.
Yeah, they're not cozies at all, I guess. But yeah, I think they're fairly dark. But my genre has been what my publisher has deemed my genre is mainline mystery / suspense.
Okay. That makes sense. Sure. Yeah.
So
Yes, but yeah, I suppose that's right, and yet I would, yeah, as Lance may be implying, we should let our audience know that they must not be deceived by your radiant sweetness and benevolence.
oh, you mean the fact that I'm a grandmother of 11 and a great grandmother to 7?
Precisely that, and your just general demeanor, and your sense of humor, etc. That into thinking that these books are anything other than descents into madness and nightmarish violence.
That's right. That's right.
Well said. Well said.
There's a lot of dismemberment and strange. I mean, one of the best moments of this new book. I don't want to. Spoiler alert! I don't want to get too much of a spoiler here, but the heart thing. Can I describe the heart?
Sure. Yeah.
So someone wants to frame another person for murder. So
for their murder. Yeah.
Right, for their murder. So she has stem cells from her own body harvested and made into and 3D printed into a heart. And then she's going to use that as planted evidence that somebody had murdered her. And then the DNA will check out. So it's pretty intense stuff. And then, of course, LB, you just read Arm and a Leg. That has to do with some pretty macabre subject matter.
It reminds me a little bit of the writing of James Ellroy, whom audience members who haven't read his books might know from the movie L.A. Confidential. He was the author of the book that movie was based on, and it's just sort of a relentless, bloody, blood-splattered chainsaw ride.
Oh, now you're just trying to make me feel good.
I mean, the violence starts immediately, and it's could not be more cold-blooded or exciting. I mean, it's delightful.
Well, I actually have had people. Let me just give this real quick example of after Arm and a Leg came out. One of the women at my church bought a copy and asked me to sign it, and she had just started it, and she said, "Oh, I am so enjoying this." Then the next week when I saw her, she had this kind of blank look on her face, and she said, "It got gory."
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
She must have been on page 1, paragraph 1 before she discovered it got gory.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been told that I probably could write horror, but I don't like horror. You know, Stephen King does great. It's not my thing. So I'll just call it mystery and write gore.
Yes.
There you go. Well, but I think after reading An Arm and a Leg, I probably would have expected more supernatural out of subsequent books, but you haven't really done as much with the supernatural as you did.
No, I didn't. The next two. This one that's coming out now has just a taste of it. So yeah.
Okay.
That's interesting that you would mention that. I've had other people mention that they actually liked that. I had an interesting thing. A young man who has a terminal diagnosis who read Arm and a Leg and who said he thought it was beautiful and that it gave him hope.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
That surprised me. I never would have thought something like that would come of that book.
Right. Well, I wouldn't, they're not all dark doom and gloom. I mean, you do give us hope. It's certainly not a one note thing that you're doing with your writing. I mean, Dix and Lil are spunky and funny and cool. And so it's not all like darkness. It's it's sort of like the underdog facing, like these older women who don't seek it out, but somehow it's been foisted on them, the darkness. And their spunk and their grit is definitely a ray of hope, I think.
Oh, thank you. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah, I hope I haven't implied that there wasn't that hope and that sense of there's lightness, there's humor in abundance, and yes, well, the characters are lovable, which is only enhances the dread when they run into this serious problems that they run into.
That was the intention. I'm glad you caught that. Let me say something quickly about Dix and Lil. They are in their 60s. I actually had a woman who's just turned 80 say to me, "You need not to write about those old women anymore. Nobody wants to read about old women." Well, they never watched that show. What is it with all of the gals?
Golden Girls.
Golden Girls.
Well, that one too. There are a couple that are fairly popular, but yeah. Now that you mention it, I have given some thought to doing a third about Dix and Lil. I'll have to think about that. It's fun to write about them. I enjoy it.
I think it could be a great series. Like instead of a Nancy Drew, you've got your Dix and Lil series. I think that's a great idea. But I wanted to ask you. So when we talked to you last time, I think for anybody out there, again, our website is POV-Publishing.com. You can find the podcast that we had with Olive before. And of course, the world was a very different place, a year and a half ago. Can you tell us what was it like? Well, okay, first of all, when did you finish the book? Did you finish it before the world changed?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
And in fact, the publisher had it for like 8 months before they released it. So it was done well before the world changed, as you said. My son says, when the world stops ending, then we can get back to, to life. But yeah, it was well before.
And so what was it like? What was the difference between releasing a book, summer of 2019 and then releasing this one in October of 2020?
Well, that's interesting because my world has not changed much. I live south of Albuquerque in a village. My husband and I don't get out a whole lot other than to go see family. So my lifestyle per se hasn't changed much other than the fact that I get hungry to hold on to my grandkids and my great.
Oh, sure.
But releasing the book, I think that what's happening, and I'm seeing this as I look online, writers, authors are pouncing on this pandemic as a time to write things about pandemics, to write, just kind of engender their own writing with, okay, this is what's happening right now, and this is how I want to deal with it.
Yeah.
I don't feel compelled to do that. My primary thrust in writing is escapism.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need reality. Thank you very much. Been there. So
yeah.
Interesting.
That's
escape
interesting.
into the extreme darkness of man's inhumanity to man.
Well, I'll tell you, there's, I guess, extreme darkness, but I could only read about the first couple of chapters of Stephen King's It because it scared the bejeebers out of me. I could not read that. So I don't think, however, with Arm and a Leg, my own sister said, yeah, it's gory. You got somebody messing around with a dead body. Excuse me, not messing around, but using it to escape. Okay. And so I guess, yeah, maybe Stephen King doesn't scare himself. I don't scare myself.
Interesting. Well, so you wouldn't say that anything from the past, 9 months has really affected how you're writing the new one?
Yes. Probably not affected my storyline. If anything, it has made me more determined to put a little bit of light element into it. And so even my bad guy there's humor. And I have felt compelled to put more humor into it because people get enough of the dark side.
Sure.
The way things are. So
not me. I can't get enough.
That's cool. Good for you. Boy, have I got a deal for you.
You mentioned your son. You talking about James?
Yes.
Yes. So I was suspecting as I was reading this, and you can confirm or deny. So in this book, Code Murder, I mean, you can tell by the title, of course, there's some tech stuff going on in this book. It's about, you know, cyber currency and the like. And the, you know, a lot of the characters are tech savvy people who can manipulate certain things. And of course, it's all about trying to get the evidence off of a computer or off the cloud, that sort of thing. Tell me, how much of a role did James play as your researcher here?
A ton.
Yeah, I see. I guessed that much. Tell us about that.
Yeah,
process.
I am a Luddite with a capital L. James is a software architect, and as such, he knoweth all things tech. So
Right.
I have to say, even the really basic questions, I would ask him. He did resist rolling his eyes. I was proud of him for that. But he gave me all kinds of information. I have my handy dandy little pocket recorder, and I would go to his house and sit him down, and we would talk for a couple of hours, and he would answer my questions and made himself available to me. And so, yes, he had a great deal of input. His information made a difference.
Can you tell us what you learned in the process, or what's maybe surprised you as you learned these things?
Yeah, well, for one thing, I had no idea that cyber currency was such a big deal, but it's growing in its, people are getting more and more into it. I guess as monetary systems come and go, it's all basically smoke and mirrors. It's okay, sure. I have this cool little round rock, and I think that I could trade you this little round rock for your little piece of bread. How would that work? Okay, cool, let's do that. So right. we have basically done that with Bitcoin and some of these other guys. I was very surprised to find out that a couple of uber wealthy young men, brothers, in fact, did pile several millions of dollars into cryptocurrency, and by doing so enhanced its value to the point that when they then sold out, they made a ton of bucks.
It's also got an underside, of course, where the illegal activity tends to be fueled by it because they don't want to deal with real currencies and banks.
Absolutely. It's a perfect way to launder money if any of you out there are interested in doing that. It's a great way to do that. So that was one of them. The thing about 3D printing vital organs, that is an actual thing that's happening. It's a thing. Amazing. And it's just not, it's still in the developmental stages. It's not, you can't just go have a lung printed yet. We may be getting there, Star Trekian kind of thought, but anyway.
Yeah, how long before we can print a person?
That's a good question. It's possible to actually print skin.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Flesh, human flesh. So it's just a matter of time, folks.
So
buckle up, grab your butts, because it is coming.
That is true.
I'm intrigued by where we're headed and a little bit terrified. If it's possible to be a little bit terrified, but it's a frightening reality. But the potential for good is amazing as well. So there's that.
I'm curious as to know what comes first. Is it? Are you coming up with plots that you then sort of inklings of what may or may not happen in your story, and then finding sort of support for it in the research, or are you doing research that then inspires a storyline?
Both.
Okay.
It's interesting because I am what is in writer circles called a pantser. I write mostly by the seat of my pants, but
I thought you said panzer, like a tank. You're a panzer.
No, P-A-N-T-S. I'm P-A-N-T. Yeah, I tend to have a thought. For instance, like with this, with Code Murder, I thought, what if the actual beginning of Code Murder, that the inciting incident, I think you would call it, that kind of exploded into a story. was when I was speaking to an emergency room nurse friend of mine, and I asked her, what is the most bizarre injury you have ever seen? And she said a professional painter that got a pinhole in his high pressure tank paint line, and it shot paint through his hand. It was like a needle. And when they turned on the air compressor, it shot paint through his hand. And then it became septic. And he lost a portion of his hand, but she said it was the weirdest thing she had ever seen. So I thought, yeah, what a great way to commit murder. It's kind of chancy. I thought, what if you killed somebody by putting a pinhole in their paint? So obviously I did not follow that to that extreme. After speaking to a nephew who's a pathologist and teaches pathology in Dallas, and I asked him, is it possible somebody would die from that? He said, only if it took out a vein or something, took out an artery. But so anyway, changed it up a little bit, but that is the kind of thing that sparks something in me. So
it's great that you have your family as a research department.
I have a lot of those. Things. One of my main contributors is a young woman named Christine Muncie. I met her when she was a detective with APD, Albuquerque Police. She is now an investigator in Montana. She has informed all three of my books, and the fourth one is based on her character.
Oh, tremendous.
Oh, wow.
She's an amazing woman. Amazing woman.
You know, you mentioned money laundering earlier. It made me want to ask you about Breaking Bad. Have you watched Breaking Bad?
I've seen some of it.
Some of it.
Seen some of it. I'm not addicted as so many people really got into it, but yeah, I've seen some.
Yeah. Well, I thought of it because of Albuquerque and violent organized crime.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, we have a little of that. That's around.
Interesting.
So now that you have 3.5, how do you feel about the process of writing? How do you feel about your art? How do you feel like yourself as an artist? Like if you compare where you are now in your process and your experience and your wisdom to where you were when you first started An Arm and a Leg, what do you think tell us about that growth?
I'd have to say that it's a slow metamorphosis. There's no doubt about that. My style has somewhat changed. My process has somewhat undergone a little bit of, I've reevaluated as time goes with everyone. There are things that come easier as one gets into the repeat process, but there are some things that are just frustrating and tough, and you just have to work your way through, or at least that has been that way with me. One of the frustrations to me has been the publishing process and how long it takes. If you are an unknown, if you're not a politician and you're gonna deliver the dirt on somebody, kind of thing, if you have a television show or you have some name recognition, you have a lot better chance of actually getting published.
Yes.
But there is so much out there that is self-published. I know people who have the Kindle Unlimited and they get free books. They read free books. And I have read a few. I don't this is gonna, no matter how I say it, this is not gonna sound good. I'm not willing to give up an hour or two of my life to read some of that.
Yeah.
And so I strive every time I write something. My desire is that people will simply enjoy reading it. And when they've finished it, they'll be able to say, okay, yeah, that was worth the hours out of my life.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a laudable goal. It's an interesting thing to think about self-publishing, to think about free ebooks. I remember many years ago, a friend of ours named Simon said that he thought that it was actually important that things have a monetary value because people cannot choose but apply other value to things that have monetary value. And what we give away for free, people will accept as worthless.
Yeah, that's I think that's absolutely right on the money.
Yeah. I think that's one of the main reasons to charge money for your work, is actually to enhance the experience of people who are enjoying it.
Well, I have a whole toe sack full of cliches, and one of them is you get what you pay for. However, having said that, it is pretty dadgum expensive to order a book online nowadays. I mean, any books, printed books are expensive.
True.
And so I'm really, really thrilled that Kindle is available, and that Nook, that you can actually get books online that are actually what we used to pay for a paperback now is Kindle. And so the frustrating thing to me is that somebody somewhere is making a pile of bucks off of people. But it's that's what you do. You have to go within the process.
Is his name Jeff Bezos? Was it? Is that what you're talking about? But no, I want to hold your feet to the fire here, and I want to know what you have learned. I'm going to take you back to this question.
Oh, okay.
I want a lesson, Olive. I want a lesson.
All right. All right.
What you think that you are doing now that you didn't do before, and it has enhanced your work.
Okay, that's good. That's a good question. I think that part of it is, of course, the bottom line is you have to write well. One has to, 50 Shades of Grey notwithstanding, one wants to do one's own best work. And that means, okay, there's a learning curve involved. I have to make sure my grammar is good. I have to make sure my sentence structure is on. I can't have dangling participles. So all of the grammar stuff, I've progressively gotten, I believe, tried to get tighter and tighter with my writing. That's one. Verbosity doesn't work, especially now. People want instant everything. And so verbosity doesn't cut it. Have you ever read in Jane Austen? I mean, you're talking about people who the first 5 or 6 chapters are backstory. Nobody is going to get into that anymore. You have to get, my problem is I like describing things. I like describing the world where my characters are peopling, and I want people to get that, but nobody gives a rip. They want little snippets. They want to know the character, but they don't want that all in the first 5 pages. In fact, if you don't have somebody killed in the first page or 2, you've lost them already. So that's one thing I have learned.
I love it. I love it. That's, you know what, as you were saying that, I was thinking, yep. You know what, when I knew that I was going to get your book, I knew as soon as I opened the book, I was going to be like, the ride was going to start. It's like a rock and roller coaster at Disney World. It's like, as soon as they strap you in, that's going to hit top speed, like in the first 10 seconds. And,
absolutely. Contrast that with the great quote about Remembrance of Things Past, the Marcel Proust book, where it takes 100 pages for the narrator to roll over onto his side.
Yeah, well said. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, some of the James Michener books, quite popular and very informative and very interesting, but 3 inches thick of describing Hawaii.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
do you think that's an actual artistic drawback, or do you think it's more a question of pleasing the market?
Oh, absolutely, the marketplace. Depends on one's goal as a writer. If I said, I don't care if anybody reads my book, that would absolutely be a lie. Why would I want to spend hours of my life writing for nobody to read? That's the whole goal. But the other side of that is it's absolutely market driven. There's no doubt about it. People want to read what they want to read. Now, having said that, Marketing 101 says that you make a need and then you fill it. Create a need, then fill it. So part of what I want to do is to make people think, yeah, I really do need to read that. I just need to read that. I need to get away. And one of the ways I can do it is to read Murder and Mayhem and Blood and Gore by Olive Balla. That would be cool.
Well,
but yes, it's market driven as far as publication by a publishing house. There's no doubt about that. But we see some people, and they are few and far between. In fact, I probably could list them on one hand, the fingers of one hand, who have actually self-published and done beautifully with a self-published book and sold a ton of them. For instance, Wool, W-O-O-L. This guy self-published and he sold a ton of the books. He doesn't have a website. He doesn't do blogging. I mean, all of the marketing stuff that I would rather eat a pill than have to do. I am not a marketing guru, but one just about has to be one nowadays. So there are so many aspects to this that are so different than they were when I was in high school and sent off what I was hoping to be a scathingly brilliant plot to Gunsmoke and got a beautiful rejection letter. It's different now, and with the changing, I believe in change. I believe we have to embrace it, but we have to learn about it because some of this stuff comes out of nowhere before you realize, oh, you mean I can't do that anymore? Nah, not if you want to get somewhere. You can't do that anymore.
Well, I hope that we're helping here by getting the word out. Everyone, you do need to read Olive Balla. You do need to see that murder happen in the first few pages. You do need this in your life.
Oh, that's
true.
So get the book. And
thank you, Lance.
LB, I do hear some thunder in the background.
I do. I hear thunder too, and I noticed that the sky has grown dark.
All the way over on the other side of town, that's happening. What about you, Olive? Are you hearing any thunder?
Bright and sunny. Nothing going on here.
Interesting.
Well, nevertheless, I think
we go by the local weather here in Austin.
Right. That's right. Yes, you can't escape the lightning round, Olive. You can deny, but it's coming.
All right.
Okay, here we go. Now, again, I need to explain that in the past we have hit our guests with a barrage, a battery of questions, but they've always been the same question. And it occurred to me that this is the first time we've had a return guest, and so we had to mix it up. And so this will be the first time that we have a brand new set of questions for the lightning round. So here it comes. You ready?
I am.
What was the last book that you read?
The Spanish Flu, a history from beginning to end. Copyright 2020. It's on Kindle. It's a very short little history. History is not my thing, but I just felt compelled to read about it in light of what's happening right now. So that's the latest one I've read.
Great answer. That's a perfect answer. Okay, so name an author that you admire or would like to be like.
Sue Grafton. She has written the Alphabet series, A for Alibi, etc. Kinsey Milhone is her protagonist. She's a detective, used to be a police officer, and then she opens up her own detective agency. But I like Sue Grafton because she is prolific. She tells great stories with strong female characters, and I'm drawn to her stuff. There is no Z yet, but she has written everything up into Z.
Okay, fantastic. What genre are you most drawn to?
Well, I don't want to lie. I love mysteries, but I also enjoy science fiction. Okay. Although at last count on Google, there are at least 14 main genres and dozens of subgenres. So I really can't honestly say I've tried them all.
Science fiction.
But there may be a hidden jewel in there somewhere that would rock my boat. I don't know, but you didn't ask my two least favorite genres. I'm going to stick it in there real quick: historical nonfiction and horror. Nonfiction because I don't need more reality, and horror because I don't need more reality.
That's really interesting. Coming from you, but I think that the horror and the mystery are kind of cousins in there. Like sometimes there's an overlap, the suspense and the, with murder and everything. It is funny how we deal with murder in sort of in a different way when it's a thriller. When it's a whodunit, it's almost quaint and fun, as opposed to
Agatha Christie kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's a puzzle.
Yeah.
Right.
And by the way, you will have noticed that there's a little bit of a discrepancy. I said I don't like history, and then I said I read the Spanish flu book. So I'm also a great liar.
That's probably very helpful as a writer.
Has been.
Fiction.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. Name a book that you wish that you had written.
Okay, I think everybody would probably immediately say Harry Potter, but that not for me. At the risk of coming across as stodgy, there are only a few books, the writing of which would allow me to stay comfortable inside my writer's skin. Besides Sue Grafton's luscious mysteries, I probably would have been happy to write anything by Agatha Christie.
Oh, nice. Good answer. Okay, so and LB contributed this one. Book you wish that you were a character in.
Winnie the Pooh.
Excellent. Who would you like to be?
I love the
or
warm
yourself?
friendships. Sorry?
Would you want to be yourself or one of the existing characters?
I want to be Pooh. Absolutely. Because of the warm friendships, the life lessons that they reflect. And Pooh is ever wise and soft-spoken and all about just genuinely caring about his friends. And so, yeah, I like Winnie the Pooh.
Well, that somehow is fitting for our final question. So usually on the lightning round, we say, okay, the big finale is, had you ever committed any felonies? No, any poetry to memory. That was it. No, but this one is, give us your favorite quote or adage.
Thank you. Let me just delve into my ever-present bag of forbidden cliches. The first thing that comes into my head is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Okay. I like that one. Yeah, that says it. That's a good one. That's a great one. So with that in mind, you're going to continue to make quality, suspenseful, mysterious, dark stories for us to read. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Hopefully, yes.
Okay, great. Well, it was really, really great having you again.
Well, it's wonderful for you guys to ask me. I just really have enjoyed it. I love seeing your faces, and I really appreciate you asking me on.
It's an added bonus, right? That we get to see each other's faces as we talk. I love it.
Yes, it is.
The pandemic has brought us maybe one silver lining. You have to squint to see it, but it's there.
Well said. Yeah.
Okay, LB, you want to sign us out? Who are we, and what are we doing here?
We are the Persistence of Vision podcast, the Persistence of Vision Publishing Company, publishers of such great books as The Goddamn Fool, Why So Much, and I'm hoping that there will be another Lance Fever novel coming out soon, but I'm not going to give anything away. Also the Great Christmas Story, and not to mention all the comic books strips that we put up, and all these podcasts. Doing it for all the people on land, sea, or air, and doing it since 1918.
Sure.
19,000? Holy moly.
Been doing this a long time.
Yes. No, we've been doing it for a long time, and we love it, and we love Olive Balla. Thank you so much for being our guest today. Go out and read Olive's books, including her new book, Code Murder, and her older books, An Arm and a Leg and Jilly. So, yeah, and her forthcoming book. Read that too, even if it isn't out yet. Read it. Do it for us. Do it at my strong suggestion and recommendation.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Everyone. I am Lance Fever Myers, and we are out of here.
Adios.
All right.
Bye.